Hey, it's your host Shay, and welcome to my 2024 Book Awards. Right off the bat, I definitely want to give credit to Haley Pham for this video idea. Go check out her video if you want to see what her top books of 2024 are. But I just thought this was a fabulous way to kind of show you guys the standout books for this year. So let's get into it. For our first category, we have Best Cover. The nominees: Caraval, Dirty Diana, and Hunting Adeline. I am obsessed with Caraval's cover. As you can see, it kind of has this like embossed, I wouldn't say holographic, but sort of holographic cover. I like all the little designs to it. I think it really speaks to what the book is about. And I kind of like this little side strip, even though when you open it, it doesn't go all the way to the next page. This isn't the second page category. This is the cover category. But yes, this is the Caraval cover. For our second nominee for Best Cover, we have Dirty Diana, which was actually from Book of the Month, not sponsored, but I think it was for Book of the Month of November, I want to say. But I just absolutely love the cover. It looks like a piece of artwork, and it's literally a woman. I think I can speak for everybody when I say that women are just beautiful. So just the art of the woman and all of the colors making it look like a painting, it's just so stunning to me. And I always have this book displayed on my bookshelf now ever since I got it. So this is definitely a contender. Our last but not least nominee for Best Cover is Hunting Adeline. I absolutely love this cover. It's very dark, but it's also like very classy. I love the font in the front, and the two little designs on the top and bottom make it look very fancy. And then I just love like the dark skulls and dark cover mixed with the fire on the roses. I just think it's beautiful. And the official winner for Best Cover goes to, drumroll please, Dirty Diana. Like I said, this cover just feels like a piece of artwork, and I also love the contrast of the white lettering on the colorful page. This cover is just hitting it all for me. So, chef's kiss. For our next category, we have the best setting in a book. The nominees are 11/22/63 by Stephen King, Misery by Stephen King, and The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. 11/22/63 was a ride. If you have read this book, you know that you really do feel transported back in time with the main character. So this is definitely a contender for the setting, because every time King would describe anything, even though obviously I have not lived in the 50s, I definitely felt like I was him, and I felt off, like I was in a completely different decade with the main character. So good luck. Next we have Misery by Stephen King, and I do have to give this book its flowers as well. I mean, we do have 2 Stephen King books nominated for this category, so we have to give him his flowers, ladies and gentlemen. But I was actually nervous going into this book because I heard that it took place all in just one setting, and that made me nervous because I felt like that was going to be extremely boring. Boy, was I wrong. I absolutely fell in love with this book, and I felt the pain of the main character being trapped in this house. Our last nominee is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This book was interesting. I do have a Sips and Synopsis episode if you want to watch that to get more of my thoughts on this book. But I absolutely love the setting of the house on the lake. I felt like I was sitting on the porch watching the lake with the main character, and I just kind of wish I was able to read this book like while I was in a cabin or like any kind of lakeside. I would have loved to read this book, and I would recommend doing that because it really just felt like I was there. And the winner of Best Book Setting is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. As much as I have controversial thoughts on this book, The House Across the Lake is probably one of my favorite settings for books this year, because like I said, I really felt like I was on this secluded house in the lake every time I jumped into the book. So yeah. For our next category, we have Most Unique Plot. The nominees are The Silent Bride, The One, and Rock, Paper, Scissors. Our first nominee is The Silent Bride by Shalini Boland. The plot of this book is that a bride is finally walking down the aisle, but when she does walk down the aisle, she realizes that she does not recognize her husband. And the whole book is basically trying to figure out what is going on and why she doesn't recognize her husband. I thought this was an extremely interesting plot, and I did have it on my Amazon book list for a while, and finally decided to read it this year. I definitely had a Sips and Synopsis episode about this, so if you want to know my thoughts on this, definitely check that out. But yeah, this is our first nominee. For our second nominee for Most Unique Plots, we have The One by John Mars. This was also very intriguing to me. Well, obviously, most interesting plot. All of these books that are nominated, I bought based off of because I thought the plot was interesting. But basically, there is kind of like this DNA thing. So let's say it's like a 23andMe that you take, and then it basically matches you with your perfect match for your lifelong partner. So let's say even if you're in a relationship and you take this perfect match of DNA, you might not be a perfect match with your partner. And this kind of explores the different dynamics with that. You kind of get a couple different POVs. Like one guy is about to be married to his wife. He takes the test and it seems that he's matched with a man. And he's never thought that he was gay or anything like that. So he's exploring that. And then there's this one girl who meets her perfect match, but he lives in a whole other country and they're long distance. And there's just a lot of different scenarios. We even actually get the POV of the woman who created this perfect match DNA system, and she finally matches with somebody. So you get a lot of interesting POVs in this book with also the interesting plots, so this is a strong contender. And our last nominee for Most Interesting Plot is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Yeah, Alice Feeney. I always want to say Alice Fenley, but it's Alice Feeney. Yeah. So basically the plot of this book is a husband and wife are on the brink of divorce and they're trying to save their marriage. So they go on a little winter vacation and everything is not as it seems, of course. So the wife has been writing the husband a letter every year on their anniversary that he is not aware of and doesn't end up reading. We as the reader do get to see these letters every year as we're kind of jumping from present to past and seeing kind of what went wrong in the relationship. And we end up finding out that the woman that he's with on this vacation isn't the same wife who was writing the letters, and that the woman that he's with is actually his new wife that he cheated on his original wife with. And it's just, this is a whole spoiler session, so I'm just gonna stop right there, but this is a very interesting plot. And the winner for Most Unique Plot is The One by John Mars. I picked this book because I do think that it was fun to see this plot play out in so many different scenarios. For example, one of the characters that we follow finds her perfect match, she's looking at like his Facebook pictures and everything, and he seems like such a great guy, and she's so excited to meet him. And then she realizes that he has actually just passed away. And she goes to the funeral of him and kind of like mourns someone who she doesn't really know, but someone who apparently she was supposed to spend the rest of her life with. So I just thought it was fun to see all those different dynamics play out. Our next category is going to be most bingeable. The nominees are Caraval, Better Than the Movies, and The Silent Patient. When I tell you that I stayed up for a day straight to finish this book, it was insane. I would literally read some of it, take a break, go watch some TV. It would be like 2 a.m. I'm like, I gotta go finish. I gotta see what happens next in this book. This book just, I wanted to know what happened so bad that I binged it. So, Caraval, nominee number 1. What can I say? Second nominee for most bingeable, we have Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I loved this book. I was definitely skeptical reading this book because it sounded so corny. The beginning of the book felt so corny. I didn't want to read about some high school romance. But when I finally gave this book a chance, I was hooked and I wanted to know what happened next. Yes, I did. Definitely a classic enemies to lovers book, and it was just probably one of my favorite romances of 2024, and I don't really read romance, so that's probably something that I'm probably gonna try to do this year. Our last nominee is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelis, and this book, I also read this in maybe like 2 sittings within like a day or 2, because I also needed to find out what was going on in this book. This book was probably the book that motivated me to start reading again. When I heard about this book, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely want to read this book. But I already had like 5 or so books that were just sitting that I never read. So I told myself if I read at least 4 of the books of the 5 that I do own, I can buy this book and start reading it. And that's kind of what kicked off my reading journey. And now I have more books. So this book kind of holds a special place in my heart. And the winner for most bingeable book goes to The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelis. This book had me on my toes the entire time, and I read it in less than a day, so it definitely deserves this award. Our next category, we have Best Escapism. The nominees are Caraval, Better Than the Movies, and 11/22/63. Actually, we're cutting Best Escapism. Fuck that. Aww. For our next category, we have Most Shocking Plot Twist. The nominees are The House Across the Lake, Rock, Paper, Scissors, and Hidden Pictures. The House Across the Lake is known to have a very shocking plot twist, but basically what makes this plot twist so shocking is that for a book that seems so normal and builds up this entire world to make it seem a certain way, with no warning at the end of the book, we realize that the main character's dead husband has possessed one of her neighbors, where ghost and possession didn't even seem like an option to begin with. And it was just a little, shocking is the right word when I read this book. I didn't particularly like the plot twist, but I will say it was shocking. Rock, Paper, Scissors, This was also nominated for Most Unique Plot, and might I say the plot twist does live up to the plot's expectation. I did not even think that the woman that he was on vacation with was not the same woman that was writing the letters about him. This book actually broke me to my core. So, rock, paper, scissors. Highly recommend. Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But the plot twist in this book was insane to me. I knew something shady was going on, but I did not think that it had anything to do with this little boy's parents. Basically, the main character, Mallory, has some addiction issues in the past. She is sober now, and she decides to try to find a babysitting job. She lands one with a specific family that has a baby boy named Teddy, and he draws really well, but he starts drawing some really strange pictures, and it's kind of like she's unraveling a mystery. We end up finding out that Teddy's parents are not really his parents. They actually stole him, and Teddy is not actually a little boy but a little girl, and they are forcing her to act like a boy so it's not suspicious that they took this child. And the whole thing is just insane. I really wasn't expecting it, but I did really enjoy this book. Highly recommend as well. And the winner for most shocking plot twist is rock, paper, scissors. This book deserved it, ladies and gentlemen, because when I read it, I was gagged. My jaw was dropped. So that is the reason that I picked it. I don't have to tell you why I picked it, because it's my 2024 Book Awards. Thank you very much. We are almost down to the end, ladies and gentlemen. For the second to last category, I want to tell you what my most underwhelming book was of the year. And that is going to be, with no other competition, The Silent Bride. This book right here. I don't like hating on books, but I was honestly very disappointed. I didn't feel any connection to the characters throughout the entire book and felt like I was just getting told unnecessary information the entire time, and I honestly didn't care about anything the whole time I was reading it, which is kind of harsh for me to say, but I'm just being honest. Lock me up. But yes, that was my most underwhelming book of the year, unfortunately. So underwhelming, might I add, that I might actually donate this book. But anyway, let's leave on a high note. For our last category, with also no competition, I wanted to name 11/22/63 my best tearjerker award. This book had me bawling like a baby. This is the reason I haven't made a video about it, because it's just had me so emotional, and I didn't even see it coming. It's just when I started reading the last couple pages of this book, I just broke down, because the book is probably the longest book I've ever read. I don't remember how many pages it is, but it's just like you feel like you know these people, especially with Stephen King. He really does so well at making you care about the characters and connect to the characters, that once you finally get to the end of a book, you really just have this like sense of catharsis that you might get from watching like a play or a musical or something like that, that also tries to make you feel something. But I don't want to give too much away about the book, but just the way that it ended, that he didn't obviously get his exact happy ending that he wanted, but it was still bittersweet in the end, just made me break down in tears like somebody passed away. And I also want to say that 11/22/63 was probably my favorite book of the year, just because of that reason. I had such an amazing time reading it. I really felt like I was there. As you can see, it was nominated for multiple categories because just how much it really resonated with me. And is going to be it for my 2024 Book Awards. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and I hope you enjoyed the champagne and the hors d'oeuvres while watching the show. And I just want to say thank you to Beyonce, because without her, none of this could have happened. And I hope that 2025 brings many more amazing books and amazing stories. And if you guys have any recommendations for books that I should read in 2025, please let me know. I am always open to reading new books or learning about new books. And with that, see you next time.